Welcome back to LA Show. Thank you guys so much for tuning back in with me. I wanted to come in and give some updates on some of our cases dealing with our women and give some updates on what's going on in some of those cases. Our first case that we're going to do an update on is on Breonna Taylor's case. We all know that she was shot and killed savagely in her home after a no-knock warrant raid in Louisville, Kentucky. I have an article here from thecourierjournal.com. Louisville police released the Breonna Taylor incident report. It's virtually blank. This was posted on June 10th of 2020. Nearly 3 months after Louisville Metro police officers fatally shot Breonna Taylor in her South End apartment, the department has released the incident report from that night, except it is almost entirely blank. The 4-page report lists the time, date, case number, incident location, and the victim's name, Breonna Shaquille Taylor, as well as the fact that she is a 26-year-old black female. But it redacts Taylor's street number, apartment number, and her date of birth, all of which have been widely reported. And it lists her injuries as none, even though she was shot at least 8 times and died on her hallway floor in a pool of blood, according to attorneys for her family. It lists the charges as death investigation -LMPD involved, but checks the no box under forced entry, even though officers used a battering ram to knock in Taylor's apartment door. It also lists under the offenders portion of the report the 3 officers who fired in Taylor's apartment, fatally shooting her: Sergeant John Mattingly, age 47, Miles Cosgrove, age 42, and Brett Hankinson, age 44. What's missing from the report? But the most important portion of the report, the narrative of the events that spells out what happened March 13th, has only 2 words: PIU investigation. And the rest of the report has no information filled in at all. I read this report and have to ask the mayor, the police chief, and the city's lawyers, are you kidding? This is what you consider being transparent to taxpayers and the public? Asked Richard A. Green, editor of the Courier-Journal. At the time when so many are rightfully demanding to know more details about the tragic March evening, I fail to understand this lack of transparency. The public deserves more. The police department acknowledged errors in the report, that it was the result of the reporting program creating a paper file. Inaccuracies in the report are unacceptable to us, and we are taking immediate steps to correct the report and to ensure the accuracy of the incident report going forward, this statement said. Mayor Greg Fisher was less forgiving, issuing a statement Wednesday night calling the release report unacceptable. Full stop. It's the issues like this that erode public confidence in LMPD's ability to do its job. And that's why I've ordered an external, top-to-bottom review of the department, he said. I am sorry for the additional pain to the Taylor family and our community. How Breonna Taylor was killed March 13th. Taylor was at her Springfield Drive apartment around 12:40 a.m. when the 3 plainclothes officers used a no-knock search warrant signed by Circuit Court Judge Mary Shaw to enter her home as part of a narcotics investigation. Officers say they announced their presence, but Taylor's boyfriend, Kenneth Walker, and several neighbors say they did not. Walker said he thought intruders were trying to break into their home and fired a warning shot that struck Mattingly in the leg. Mattingly, Hankinson, and Cosgrove are on administrative reassignment pending the investigation. The detective who requested the warrant, Joshua James, has been reassigned, LMPD announced Wednesday. This document is proof that LMPD continues to make a mockery of transparency, said John Fleshaker, counsel for the Courier-Journal and one of the principal authors of the state's open record law that requires the release of public documents in all but extremely rare circumstances. Under the Fisher administration, there has been a consistent policy and practice of refusing to tell the public what is going on with the police, regardless of how inappropriate the officer conduct has been, even when it is criminal, as in the LMPD Explorer case, Fleshaker said. The Courier-Journal sues to get shooting information. With debate about police reform taking place nationwide, Fleshaker says city leaders are refusing to honor their obligations to disclose the basic information necessary for the citizens of Louisville to have a meaningful debate about what needs to change. How can we even debate police reform if the police won't engage and the mayor won't stand up to them, he said. The Courier-Journal is suing LMPD, seeking the immediate release of the department's investigative file in Taylor's shooting. Police have refused to release the file, saying it's an ongoing investigation. The Courier-Journal has also filed an appeal with the State Attorney General's office in May to object to open records decisions Louisville public agencies made refusing to release records underlying the Taylor case, including the incident report, 911 calls made in the incident, and Taylor's autopsy report. The city has since released Walker's 911 call, but only after an attorney for Taylor's family gave it to news media hours earlier. Hannah Drake, a Louisville-based writer and activist, called the report a slap in the face to all black women. It isn't enough that black women in this city are grieving and hurting, Drake wrote. Oh no, the LMPD must add insult to injury by releasing a virtually blank incident report. This is the best they could offer Breonna, even in her death. When I looked at the incident report for Breonna Taylor, to be honest with you guys, I wasn't shocked at all. I wasn't shocked at all because I know that the police department is going to work together and they're going to cover up whatever needs to be covered up. But I digress. I have an article here from NPR.org, No-Knock Warrants Banned in Louisville in Law Name for Breonna Taylor. This was posted on June 11th of 2020. The Louisville, Kentucky Metro Council has voted unanimously to ban no-knock warrants. The legislation was titled Breonna's Law in honor of a woman who was killed during a raid on her home earlier this year. Her death became one of the rallying points in protests against police violence, along with that of George Floyd, who was killed by police in Minneapolis in May. Crowds all over the country have chanted her name. Breonna Taylor was at home at her apartment with her boyfriend Kenneth Walker on March 13th when police arrived to execute a warrant in the middle of the night. Walker reached for his gun and fired at police, according to his lawyers, because he mistook the entering officers for a robber. Officers returned fire, and Taylor, age 26, was shot multiple times and later died. Walker was initially charged with attempted murder of an officer, but the charge has been dropped. Taylor's family brought the case to public attention, suing the police and calling her death an execution. The legislation passed on Thursday also requires police to wear body cameras when serving warrants and to turn on the cameras 5 minutes before beginning the operation. Louisville Mayor Greg Fisher vowed he would sign the ban into law as soon as it hits his desk, saying risks to residents and officers with this kind of search outweigh any benefit. This is one of the critical steps on police reform that we've taken to create a more peaceful, just, compassionate, and equitable community, he added. Taylor's mom praised the city council for passing the law at a press conference. Breonna, that's all she wanted to do was to save lives, she said of her daughter, who is an EMT. So with this law, she will be able to continue to do that. So we're grateful for that. Benjamin Crump, an attorney representing Taylor's family, thanked every supporter, every protester, every young activist, and everyone who said Breonna's name after the law was passed. The 3 officers who were involved in the shooting have been placed on administrative leave during an investigation. As we have already read in these articles, these 3 officers have yet to be charged with any type of a crime. The one in the middle, Brett Hankinson, has had several women come forward and claim that he had sexually assaulted them as well while he was on the job. I have an article here from WDRB.com. Police urge charges for officer in Breonna Taylor case for running over seriously injuring detective. This was posted on June 12th of 2020. In August, the Louisville Police Merit Board approved a 4-day suspension imposed by former Chief Steve Conrad for an officer who in 2016 had driven the wrong way down South 1st Street to a drug scene and struck a detective, causing serious injuries. The Merit Board is made up of 5 citizens and 2 police officers who review appeals to discipline handed down to police officers. In this case, it was ruling on one of its own members, Detective Brett Hankinson. Despite a lengthy history of sexual allegations and using excessive force, Hankinson has repeatedly been elected to the Merit Board by fellow officers. He is in his 3rd 2-year term, which began in January. On Thursday, Mayor Greg Fisher asked that Hankinson be removed from the Merit Board, saying it was profoundly inappropriate for him to be a member. I just wanted you guys to get that backstory on this middle officer you're seeing right here, Brett Hankinson, because he has a lengthy past, which we are finding with some of these officers involved in these violent acts. Also, I can't determine whether it is administrative leave or administrative reassignment these officers are under, which is kind of shady. I feel as though the case of Breonna Taylor, it is imperative that we get justice for this type of act by police. You know, the same way that a Tatiana Jefferson was murdered in her home by police, they didn't even have a warrant. But as far as Breonna Taylor and these no-knock warrants, just like the mayor said, it's dangerous not only to the community, but it's also dangerous to the police. Senseless, totally senseless. And this young lady was going on to do bigger and better things, you know. Rest in peace to her. Let's send love, light, strength, positivity to her family so they can continue their fight for justice for this woman. Breonna Taylor, we love you. So I did an update video on the case of Tamla Horsford the other day, and I was reading the case and seeing whether or not it would be reopened, and now there is confirmation that the case will be reopened by the GBI. That is absolutely great news. I don't like this picture that I'm using right now because of the fact that they blurred out these women's pictures for whatever reason, because, you know, that just seems suspicious in itself, doesn't it? Also, yesterday while I was looking into some things about this case, I was surprised by a video of Danielle Hallen, who pretty much, you know, shouted out my work on this case last year, and I really, really do appreciate that. So I want you guys to go check out her video that she's done on Tamla as well.
As soon as it started, if you want to go and look at a YouTube channel that kind of covered this from the time information came out until I believe now, you can go look up the LA show. She first heard of this and you kind of get to see her. She made a handful of different videos. You get to see what she's telling you the media says, and you will see it change every single time. Completely different information was given every single time the news finally did report on this case.
If you've ever watched Danielle Hallen, then you know that she gets really in-depth in her cases that she covers. And, you know, I've been subscribed to her for years, so it was very humbling for me to receive a shout out for my work that I put in. Also, Amber Loves Mystery did a very good synopsis on this case as well. I have an article here from ForsythCountyNews.com. GBI agrees to open investigation into the death of Tamla Horsford. This was posted on June 12th of 2020. Forsyth County Sheriff Ron Freeman sent a letter to the GBI on Friday requesting the agency reopen the case of Tamla Horsford, the Forsyth County woman whose death during an adult overnight party. Renewed requests for re-examination are best served by an independent law enforcement agency to review previous findings and to search and act on any new evidence which may come to light, Freeman wrote to GBI Director Vic Reynolds. Freeman pledged to turn over the Forsyth County Sheriff's Office complete files on Horsford's death and fully cooperate with a GBI investigation. Your agents will have complete access to my office and deputies, Freeman writes, as well as my full cooperation. Freeman's letter, which he posted on the FCSO's Facebook page, comes after nationwide protests against racial inequality brought renewed public interest in Horsford's death. Signs bearing Horsford's name were carried at protests in downtown Cumming, alongside those with the names of Black Americans recently killed by police. Celebrities like T.I. and 50 Cent have posted about Horsford on social media, calling for a new investigation into her death. Over 586,000 people have signed a petition on change.org, wanting Horsford's case reopened. In addition, an attorney for the Horsford family, Ralph E. Fernandez, said there is a strong possibility that Tamla's death was a homicide after his office reviewed the case. In a letter sent to Horsford's husband, Leander, on June 5th, Fernandez said his office found conflicting witness statements, a tampered crime scene, mishandled evidence, and unheard of absence of autopsy photos, while Horsford's injuries were consistent with being in a physical struggle. The truth never had a chance here, Fernandez wrote. Horsford's death on November 4th of 2018 was the subject of intense national interest. According to FCSO reports, the 40-year-old arrived at the North Forsyth home around 10 p.m. on November 3rd of 2018 to attend an overnight birthday party with 11 others. They drank heavily, watched football, and played cards against humanity. While others went to bed, Horsford went out on the home's back porch around 2 a.m. to smoke a cigarette, according to witnesses. The next morning, Horsford was found lying motionless under the porch in the resident's backyard. The homeowner called 911 immediately after, according to authorities. Deputies arrived 8 minutes later at 9:07 a.m. Horsford had severe injuries to her head, neck, and torso, according to the GBI medical examiner's report. There were cuts to her face, wrists, hand, and lower legs. Horsford also had a laceration to the right ventricle of her heart. A GBI toxicology screening also showed an elevated blood alcohol level of 0.23 and detected traces of THC and the anxiety drug alprazolam in Horsford's system at the time of her death. Investigators said that Horsford fell about 14 feet from the back porch and died on impact. Her death was classified as an accident. Public skepticism began after investigators discovered one witness, Jose Barrera, who worked in the Forsyth County court system, used his position to access a report from the incident, an action that officials said was unethical and led to his firing. After Barrera's firing, interest in Horsford's death skyrocketed online, with hundreds of people using the hashtag Tamla Horsford on social media and questioning different facets of the case. Horsford's family also questioned the FCSO's investigation, according to interviews with investigator Mike Christian. I want the truth of what's going on because, the stories I've heard so far, none of them make sense, Leander Horsford told Christian. And if they don't make sense, usually there's a reason why they don't make sense. On Monday, June 8th, the FCSO told Forsyth County News that it conducted a thorough and comprehensive investigation. Evidence from the incident, along with the findings from the Georgia Medical Examiner's Office, was utilized to come to the conclusion of the case, the agency said in a statement. At the request of the family, we took another look into the evidence and also had an independent agency, the GBI, look over the findings. No additional information was found. The agency added, in a continued effort to remain transparent, we welcome any new information on the Tamla Horsford case. To date, we have received none. We're prepared to have an independent investigative authority such as the GBI take over the case should new information be provided and reopen the investigation. Fernandez, the family's attorney, said Horsford's case is not over. It will never be over, Fernandez wrote to Leander and the Horsford family. Be safe, be strong. We will get to the bottom of this. I'm very, very happy that this case is being reopened because it shows me that Forsyth County can actually see that there is something strange about the case that they conducted into this death. To me, it was things that didn't make sense before Tamla passed away, during the process of her passing away, and also after she had passed away. If you go to Danielle Hallen's video and watch it, which I'll link it down below, she gives a great timeline of events. And I have done that also, but hers is much more updated and she's really dug into the information. So I suggest that you guys go watch that video. To Tamla's family, I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, I'm so sorry that this is going on. Never once did I want to turn Tamla's case into some type of circus. Looking back on my earlier videos, I'm glad that I have, changed and grown and, done a lot better with my reporting. But, my prayers go out to her family for sure. It's a really hard situation. But I'm pretty sure that more things are going to come out of this case, being that it's been 2 years and it's been nothing but perpetual stuff coming from it. So we'll see what happens. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and listening to these ladies' stories. Please find me on all of these social media platforms and follow me for more in our community, more updates, more cases, more things we need to pay attention to. And I will be back with more.